So it's been a bit longer than I wanted it to be. However, I don't think it's been too long. But today we're going to be working on the last sections of our main base here. And I've got a lot of it done, but I kind of want to show the process of removing the water because that, of course, has been my absolute favorite part, maybe. um, but we're going to do the actual goal, or not goal. Oh God, what's the word? Like going over the whole thing? Why am I struggling at words? Either way, we'll do a tour, that's the word, later. But today we're going to be going over this. I'm going to do a time lapse removing these last few waters and kind of walk through the process as well. And we might actually get some of these sections filled out too, because we've still got some work to do. These are actually the original farms that were here, or not farms, they're going to be farms. These were ocean monuments, and they got cleared out pretty quickly. I will be showing some maps at some point through here of what this area used to look like. But let's get started on the water area. So first things first, I did go up and down the whole thing. And I think it's like 15 blocks. Let's see. So we're at 178, so then this should be 180 or 193. Yeah, so there's 15 blocks here. And what I end up doing, let me go ahead and activate FreeCam here, is I'll bring this floor all the way down to Y30, so right about here. And I build this neat little water clearing machine that goes back and forth and just clears it all. And then I'll remove the wall. Move on to the next one, go back and forth, clear out the water, move on to the next one. And it just ends up being the same deal all the way down. The only difference for each one is the end bits for the water clearing machine. Where there's a curve, I do have to clear out this water manually. And as the curve gets more extreme, it ends up being a bit more tedious. And this whole area I had to clear out manually myself because we weren't coming from that direction. So let's go ahead and get started on the time lapse and start on this one. And then we'll move going down and we'll have to move that. And I think there's another one. There's one there. Yeah, so we'll have to move those two after the first two here. So I'll see you on the other side of this. Sadly, Replay Mod decided to be a jerk and not allow me to open my replay files and properly use them. So we're not going to have a time lapse today, but I did go through, as you can see, and actually find some of my old photos of my base, and they shall be playing in the background at the moment. And while there's a massive jump from, I think, like February to August, it just kind of show the history and not necessarily the scale, but like what's changed over the months and basically the past year at this point. Um, Not only that, uh, hopefully from now on, we should be able to get the replay mod working because I did successfully do a time lapse, just not one relevant to this episode. So images in the background and keep watching because now we're going to go over some of the actual plans for the area. So we'll see how that goes. And with that done, we have a corridor. So that took, I want to say, about an hour to do the clearing of the bottom. And looking at my clock, looks like it took about 4 hours to actually clear all the water down. But that part I just got to AFK for, which is nice and easy. Now for the rest of the area here, which we have not touched yet, it's just kind of a repetition of the same process. Clearing out the end, clearing out down to 30 inside, and then running that same machine, which we should have gotten a close-up look in for the actual time lapse there. And then just clearing this sand wall for each layer. But I kind of want to go over what the actual structure here looks like for right now, because the original base, is going to be leaving us here soon. So this is kind of the central area, and I really like the central pillar that I was working on. And we're going to start by going down it, even though there's not much down here just yet. Got a couple of really basic sugarcane farms and some places for glow squid to spawn rather, that I'm using to farm them. And then as we go further down, keep in mind the staircase is duplicated on the other side. There are 4 cardinal tunnels going off in each direction, which if I hop into free cam mode here, you can see that each tunnel also splits off into that circle that we saw outside, which is pretty neat. And then there are 4 more further down that connect all of the beacons you can see up here. So if we go out, each beacon's connected by 4 tunnels in of itself, except for the corner ones way out here. Those only end up with 2, which is over here, because they're halfway between 2, which I think actually ends up looking pretty cool from above. You end up with a small little cutoff section. Now, the reason I had to do that is because of the way the circle is. This beacon here only reaches out to this section, which means this area here, I don't know why I suddenly went into an odd accent, is completely uncovered by the beacons. So when I was digging out the stone, I would not have haste, which kind of sucked. So back into the corridors, our next staircase goes down here, which I think this is going to be where the main part of the base is. We've got the start of 2 corridors going out either side here, underneath our staircases, and the actual storage space on this side, and another space over here that comes up by 1 step. I think above here, yeah, this is where the next corridor is and the water feature. So this, I think, is going to expand out this way. And this is going to be where our main storage is. For right now, it's just a bunch of chests and some light up item frames. But it is eventually going to be something much better. And then if we go down 1 more layer, well, as I fall down 2, we've got kind of the basement area, which I'm not sure what to do with yet, but it does look cool because it is where the deep slate starts at about Y3. And then down 1 more, we've got all of our beacons, which we looked at that before. And this is actually accessible from up here in the basement area. I forgot to mention that part. So we're going to walk back up from there. I think it's this direction. It's a little bit hard to navigate at the moment, and that's one of the things I do need to work on. One of the features of navigation here, actually, that I can point out, the center beam is yellow, and then all of the beams that are down the central path are red. So you can always see a beam that is either part of the central path or is part of the central beam, no matter which one of these you're connected to, except for those central, or those like corner beacons. Those are the only awkward ones. See? We can't see the red one over there, but we can see the red one over here. So we can head down. And now, since it's red, we know that if we head down this way, towards the other red one, we'll find the yellow one. And that means that we can go home. I ended up getting lost so much down here that this was an absolute necessity. But now that I've got a different exit than just flying up that beacon beam, it seems I may actually need a different way to get up and down. And yeah, I need fireworks, and I have no ender chest, so I need to find my staircase. I think it's here. Should be an ender chest right up top here. See, this is why I built the staircases. Not only do they just look cool, but they give me safety. 1 down, actually. Here we go. Boop. Boop. Thank you. Okay. So that's kind of the goal for the central area. Let's just walk back up nice and safely here. I do plan on making the staircase out of more than just stone, but I do like how intricate it looks, even in stone, but we can definitely do more than that. Now, if we follow the corridors that are up here, each one splits off, mirroring the ones below, except for these. These are split around the guardian temples that existed before. And while this is not an exact match for where the Guardian Temple was, I had to do some math to get it to fit into the mirrored form that the temple exists around, or that the circle exists around. Essentially, on each side, I took across one layer from each side. I think on this one, it's one block smaller in this direction, so I scaled it in by one block. And on that side, I scaled it in by one block on that side. The reasoning for that is Guardian temples are centered on two blocks, whereas our entire base here is centered on one block. So to mirror it, it needed to be centered on one block, and it just wasn't. So I had to make it centered on one block by removing antipode, I think is the word, edges from either Guardian Temple hitbox. So we're going to have a smaller hitbox than optimal, but it'll look so much better symmetrical. Now let's head back down here. Like I said, each of these are mirroring the tunnels that are below, except for this one, because I had to walk around the Guardian Temple. And then there are these four, what will eventually be four, because we don't have the one over there, insets on each side around the one corner section. And this is what I meant by this one. You can't see the red ones from here. You can just see the wall, which is kind of an okay marker if you get lost, but it is a little bit of something I need to fix at some point. And in the floors, I did that thing that I really like to do, where I build kind of a little bit of what I use to lay out my markers or my paths into the design itself. So each corner has this 3x3 built into it on each edge. And then where it's not a 90-degree edge, and let's say it's 180 degrees, instead of it being a 3x3, it's a 3x, I think it's 9. And then over here, it's a 3x9 next to a 3x12. And it just makes a corner like the actual path does. So I just kind of ended up working through the entire process iteratively and making an emergent shape out of the beacons that existed and setting rules as I went, like not crossing my boundary here and making sure that each one had these shapes on it that also followed the existing rule set. And I think this definitely has a lot of potential, but we have to finish up removing all of this water, which I'll probably end up continuing off camera because this is a pretty long time lapse. Like I said, this one ended up being 4 hours, and I don't think I'm quite editing skilled up for enough to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, plus the increasing manual labor that has to go into it. So I'll get this one done. And we'll talk into how we're actually going to lay this out, because this has a lot of potential. It is not going to stay flat, that is for sure. Oh, and kind of a final thing. I've been considering doing shadow art with the, let's stay over here where it's a bit safer, with the light blocks. So if I head into FreeCam here, this is made by setting up the light blocks with a low light value and then kind of laying them out in a concentric way. I think it looks really, really cool, and that is all spawn-proof during the night, which is also really cool. So essentially, if you have a flat surface, such as the walls, instead of having to only use textures, at night you can also use shadows, which I think is going to work out pretty well. We'll see how that goes, but for the floors, since I'm not wanting them to stay flat everywhere, this will primarily be a wall thing. But this was kind of my template testing area, and I think it looks pretty cool. Like, compared to everything else, this is something you can do on a pretty small scale and pretty much everywhere. Like, instead of just having a flat lit up wall, this is one of the major things that I was looking forward to doing with light blocks. And now we actually can, because we finally got a canvas. So I'm looking forward to that. However, that'll probably be the end of it for this video. I've still got the editing for this to do, but I'll see you guys next time. And yeah, I still hate my voice, so hopefully things will be better next time, but please excuse it changing and sucking so much. Have a nice day.